All right, I've been waiting 2 years to make a video of my winter loadout. Last year, every trip that I went on in the wintertime, it was warm. And so the coldest that I was out last year was 27 degrees. And not that it didn't get colder in the winter, it just so happened that every weekend I picked was pretty warm. And I kind of feel silly about doing a winter backpacking loadout when the coldest it got was 27, and during the day it was like 45. So I was excited when I was going to go out last weekend. Today is January 19th. Last weekend I was going to go out, and I had it planned for a while, and I figured, great, it's the middle of January. I'll load it up. I'll bring a camera. I'll do the whole thing while I'm actually outside. And when I went to sleep, it was 60 degrees. When I woke up, it was 61. And so I think it's kind of silly to do a loadout when I'm sitting there in a t-shirt. So skip forward to this past weekend. This Friday, it actually got down to 10 degrees, and probably where I was, it was a little bit colder. I'm not going to say it was near zero, but you know, the temperature that I got was from a town probably 10-15 minutes away. It's a lower altitude, and so where I was, I'm going to take a wild guess that it was probably at least 8 or 9 degrees, and this is what allowed me to survive just fine. This is for a base weight of under 10 pounds. When I put it on the scale, it was 9 pounds and 9 ounces, almost 10 ounces. It was like 9.99. And so this kept me nice and toasty warm. And before anybody starts picking on my gear, one thing is you have to realize I live in Connecticut. I was only for one overnight trip, in which I started hiking at night. I didn't get there. I started hiking in at night. I knew that I was going to hike in. I was basically going to eat, go to sleep, wake up, hike out. I wasn't hanging around camp for a couple of hours. I wasn't spending all day out on the trail. So this allowed me just to kind of get in and get out. And actually, even if I was spending time on the trail, the clothes that I wore would pretty much be the same. I might make a couple of different things. If I was going to hang around in camp, you probably would see a heavier jacket that would be packed in here. The other thing is that this is really a budget 10-pound base weight. And I actually, to intro this video, I did this huge rant about budget backpacking gear. I might put that up as a separate video, I'm not sure. But what you will see me do in this video is unload 10 pounds worth of gear, and then tomorrow there will be a video on just the backpack, and then just the next day just the sleeping bag, and the next day just the sleep system. I'm not going to go into details on anything in this video right here. So let's just do some base layers that I was wearing first. So this is my Vargo shirt. I love this shirt, and I don't understand why I haven't seen anything else out there on the internet about it. It's a Vargo titanium shirt. This was one of the first videos I've ever done for this channel. I'll try to throw the link to it in the description. This shirt, I don't even know how old it is. It's got to be 3 years at this point, and I don't know if you can tell from the video, but there is like not a stain. It's got some weird technology that in the sunlight the stains disappear, and it is the wildest thing because I know that there's been stains on this shirt from me spilling stuff, and I would come back and I would see them and they just disappear. It's crazy. It's also ridiculously wicking, and so that's one of my base layers that I'm wearing. The other base layer that I wear, this was like a shirt that my wife actually got from a 5K race. And the reason why I wear it is because it's a little bit tight. And so what that does, it's kind of form-fitting, and it allows me to very easily layer something over the top of it. The next thing that I was wearing is, this is a wool flannel shirt. I found it in a thrift store for $5. And I don't know, there was something about the texture, it just felt like antique. And I looked it up, and it's actually a really old shirt that's going for like $80 for vintage clothing on eBay. And so it's a great warm shirt. It's wool, so it's, you know how it's gonna be warm and cool at the same time. And so that was my other layer. And then I just have a cheapy polar fleece hat that I wore, and some, I don't even know, these gloves are probably 20 years old that have been kicking around. They're kind of like mitten things that I also wore. All right, so what is in my pack? So this is my pack. I will go more into this pack in a whole separate video. But this pack is under 2 pounds, and it has served me just fine for my purposes. Would I bring it if I was going On an extended backpacking trip with a lot of weight, probably no. But just for an overnight or a couple of days, it's fantastic. And I'll do a whole video on that separately. So one thing in my pack, and as part of my rant before this video, I was kind of joking about people with their elite gear. This is like my dollar hat that I got at the thrift store. I put a hole in the top, and this is how I use it. If this is the hat that I'll have on my head when I sleep. Actually, let's do this in reverse. Now this might be silly, but go with me here. So I have the mummy bag, and the mummy bag comes down around my face like this. And my nose tends to freeze. And so what I do with this is I kind of raise it up. Just like that. This is how I sleep, because the mummy bag comes right here. It has a little pull tie, which I can pull on my chin. So basically the only thing that gets exposed at night are my lips. And I find this to be totally comfortable. I don't start sleeping like that. I love to look up at the stars, and so I'll kind of start off like this, and as soon as my nose starts getting cold, I'll pull that up. And it's great. Sometimes when I'm backpacking and it's windy, I will take it out and put it around my neck. So how's that for quirky thing number one? The next thing is I just have a puffy jacket. No fancy name on this sucker. This was shipped in an envelope from who knows what country for like $25 or something like that, and it does just fine by me. The next thing is I just have a layer of long johns. These are just Dickie long johns, no fancy stuff, and that is what I'll wear at night when I'm in the sleeping bag. Next thing, and I'm going to do a separate review on this as well. This is a climate sleeping pad. And this is the Insulated V, I believe is what it's called. And I absolutely love it. If you've watched other videos, you know that I tend to sleep in a hammock pretty much all the time. My winter 0-degree hammock ability is a little lacking. I don't have all the proper equipment to do that, or at least waste a night trying to figure out if I do. One of these days I'll go in my backyard and try it. But this is super. Again, I'm going to do a whole separate thing and just talk about this. I absolutely love it. Next thing is, this is a Teton sleeping bag, and I cannot remember the name of the model. It's nowhere listed on here. But this is a Teton sleeping bag. I think it's like 3.1 pounds. It is rated to 0 degrees, and let's face it, sleeping bag ratings are a joke. I might be able to survive in 0 degrees, but it's certainly not keeping me toasty warm. When I am sleeping in the sleeping bag, I have the pants that I hiked in, I have those long johns on, I have those base layers on, and I start off with my puffy put up around me like normal. And then usually what happens is I immediately start getting too hot, and my big toes start getting too cold. I have huge feet. I have size 15 feet. So what happens is, even though there's extra in the foot box, when I put my toes, my feet straight up in the sleeping bag, the toes point out like that. And because I lose all of the loft, my big toes tend to get too cold. I know, big feet problem. So when I get too hot, I tend to take off my puffy, throw it down to my feet, it warms up my feet, and then what happened this past weekend was at 3 o'clock I woke up a little cold, and I pulled my puffy back up to my top, and I was fine until I woke up. The last thing that I have, and this is a little quirky. I know not a lot of people are into this sort of thing and you'd prefer a tent or a hammock, but this is my Bivy. This is, I forgot the exact, I'll throw a link in the description. I forgot the exact name for this, but this is U.S. military, Army surplus, weighs a couple of pounds, and I love sleeping in it. I love that there's no tent to set up. I love that there's no hammock to set up. The only thing I do is I literally roll this out, throw my sleeping pad underneath it. I'm a little larger, I guess, maybe than the average person, so I find that when I put my sleeping pad in the Bivy, I tend to be a little bit tight, so I put my sleeping pad underneath it, Bivy on top. And what I'll do is, even when I went out on Friday night, I actually slept with the Bivy totally open, it wasn't closed at all. I mean, half of it is already automatically closed. And then about 3 o'clock in the morning when I woke up a little bit chilly, I threw the rest of it over me and zippered it up and stayed nice and warm for the next couple of hours. So that's the Bivy that I sleep in. And some other little tiny things. My little bag here is my Gossamer Gear spoon. There's a video on this that I'll put in the description. I have my Hydro Blue water filter. I know everybody carries a Sawyer water filter. I don't know, I bought this originally, I don't know, 3 years ago, and it works just fine. I find no need to upgrade to a Sawyer. And other little things that I'll carry is I have my bidet. I have my cat hole shovel. I have my Lawson bear bag rope. I have some, because I have the Bivy, I'll throw in some antibacterial gel. I have my chapstick, and I have a razor blade with a piece of duct tape over the blade parts. It's just an average everyday stuff sack with the cord cut off because you want to save that 400th of an ounce. And my flashlight is just something I found on sale. I think this thing was on sale for like $5. It's been going strong. It's USB chargeable, and I find it to be perfectly acceptable for what I need to do. And I don't know if you happen to notice, but when I first held up the backpack, it looked huge. It is huge. I don't know if this is a 55 liter or a 60 liter, and it's a lot bigger than what I absolutely need. And what I'm about to tell you could be totally placebo in my head. It might just be my head messing with me. But first of all, I'm not a big fan of trying to stuff my things into a backpack. And so with a little bit larger of a backpack, and again, it weighs under 2 pounds. It's 1.9 pounds, and I can even cut off more straps if I really wanted to. So at 1.9 pounds, something this large, I could take my Bivy, my sleeping bag, all my gear, and just loosely stuff it in. There's no like, in the morning I woke up, I'm done. The other thing too, and again, this is maybe just messing, I don't know, maybe it's just all in my head, but because I don't use stuff sacks, I will just stuff my stuff in. Because my sleeping bag does not get like squished down to its tightest point, I fully believe that when I take my sleeping bag out, I start out warmer because it's already fluffed out, especially if I'm just kind of getting into camp, eating, and sleeping. I know it's all in my head, but I feel like when I get into my sleeping bag, the loft is right there and I'm ready to go to sleep nice and toasty warm. So that is my loadout. It is 9.99 pounds or something along that line right there. I might be missing something because after I got home I might have used something and forgot to put it back, and I'm probably not even realizing it. If you happen to notice something obvious I'm missing, please don't rip me. Just gently mention it in the comments. And again, if you like this video, tomorrow I'm going to go specific just into the sleeping bag, the next day into the Bivy, and the following day into the sleeping pad, so you don't have to spend all that time with this video here. All right, hope that helps somebody realize that you don't need to spend a lot of money to survive outside in the winter. Goodbye.